All right, guys, we're back. This time we are going to have a spoiler review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You can listen to the spoiler-free review that I did. It is on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Nerdpocalypse, or the Coming Distractions podcast feed. So if you have not watched the movie yet and you just don't want any spoilers, you can go ahead and watch that, find out what we thought. And this one, again, is going to be totally spoiler heavy. And so we're going to get all into everything that happened in the movie. All right. So, Micah, I have not heard, or they have not heard, your official thoughts on this movie. So we'll start there.
It's a fun movie. It's very fun. It's got some story issues, but and there's a few things that I wish would have happened. But all in all, I had a really good time with it. I've had a few days to kind of like calm down of the high of it, and I've been able to kind of think about it. I think it's a solid movie. In terms of the MCU as a whole, I have kind of guesses as to what I think they're leading towards. But if you're just looking for something like trippy and fun and new spins on existing characters and, some things you haven't seen before in the MCU, yeah, man, I had a really good time with this movie. I had a really good time with it. It's not my favorite MCU movie, not by a long shot, actually. But I really, really enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun. It's a blast. I wish I was able to see this in a theater, in like a crowded theater, just to get that like endorphin rush when certain things happen, But
Your
it's
theater
a
was
solid
like pretty
movie.
quiet, you were saying.
Yeah, my theater was super quiet, man. I was like during the Illuminati scene, which is just all fan service, right? Like the Illuminati scene. The Illuminati scene is there specifically to pop a crowd, right?
Yes.
And I was the only one that was popping. I
sucks.
Fuck y'all. Y'all don't know how to have fun. But but I had fun, man. This was good. It was way darker than I thought it would be.
Oh, yeah.
You give it to Sam Raimi, and that comes with a certain like thing, right? But last time Sam Raimi did a comic book movie, it was Spider-Man, and you could see kind of hints of it, but like, this was when Wanda started coming out of portals and doing like the grudge thing and shit. Like, oh, okay, all right, this is it. So yeah, I do like the tonal shift of this movie. Yeah, man. It's just a blast. It's a fun movie.
Yeah. Look, as I said in my review, it's a hell of a ride. Like it's a hell of a ride. Like you said, there are things in this that you haven't seen in the MCU. I mean, I've certainly never seen a music-based battle quite like that, which I thought was really unique, and like that's what I was alluding to in the review. Like, somebody definitely was like, there was a lot of like back patting when they came up with it. They're like, we nailing it. Like everybody in the room is like, they're high-fiving each other. Like nobody's going to see this coming. And it was just fun. Like you could tell whoever wrote that scene was like really just having a blast. And there's just a lot of moments like that. There's a lot of moments in this movie that I thought were interesting from the, like, what you thought was going to happen, let's turn that on its head kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to have, by a different name, Shumagorath in this, and it was like, he's a big deal. Not a big deal. Like, he was like, they made fast work of him. But it was like, when he got killed, it was like, oh, this is super dark. Like, that scene, I was like, Jesus Christ. So I agree with you. I liked the tonal shift. I thought it was pretty wild. So like, let's get like really into it. What did you think of America Chavez with her debut? First off,
I I thought the actress. I'm not going to try to say her name because I'm just going to butcher it, and I really don't want to.
I think it's Xochitl. But go ahead.
I'm going to call her Ms. Gomez. I think Ms. Gomez did a very admirable job hanging with an actor the caliber of Benedict Cumberbatch.
I would agree.
Her role is kind of reduced to being just a MacGuffin.
Sure.
Which kind of sucks, but this character has been introduced now, and hopefully, will play a larger role in the MCU as a whole. But I thought she was fine. She was believable, and that's all I really care, especially for young actors. I don't know how old this woman is. She's 16. She's younger than I thought. Yeah, she's younger than I thought.
Yeah.
So given that, yeah, I actually enjoyed her performance. But she was just kind of relegated to being like the thing that the characters are after / trying to prevent another character from being after.
Right. Yeah, I thought she was good. I look at this. I look at her much like I look at Oscar Isaac's performance as Moon Knight and Brie Larson's performance as Captain Marvel, for instance. Like, I'm less worried about their first time out, and I thought all of those three characters had perfectly fine first times out. I look for what they do when they show up next, right? Because then, like, the MCU is like, yeah, you got it. You figured out who this person is. Cool. You recognize their face. All right. Now we're gonna blow the doors off with this person, right? I mean, Doctor Strange is a perfect example of that. Like, I thought the first Doctor Strange was fine. Like, I didn't think it was a bad movie, which is a very phase 1 movie in like phase 3, and I'm just like, kind of tired of that. Same thing happened with Captain Marvel, but like, it's a good movie. But then the next time Strange shows up, like he's going crazy, right? Like in Infinity War, like he's doing more, more spells and things like that, and like really kind of going off. And it's the same thing I think that's going to happen with her. So I look forward to wherever she shows up. We have no idea, but I think I could take a guess, probably in some sort of Young Avengers kind of thing that's clearly building. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the very red elephant in the room, Wanda Maximoff. I will be the first one to say, I am so happy to be wrong. I did not think they would take her. I thought she'd be like a temporary villain, and I thought they were going to try to make like the Illuminati like the villains of this story, because that's how the trailers are presented. Like, stupid me for believing that. And I thought, like, well, they're going to lock up Strange, and, like, even though she's, like, maybe hunting after America Chavez, she'll come on Strange's side, like, to help him. Nah. That's not how that happened. She went full villain, man. And I thought that was something to see, man. Elizabeth Olsen, I thought, put in a hell of a performance as a villain. She was having a lot of fun.
I don't get too many dude I told yous, and I'm not even going to count this as a dude I told you. I'm going to count this as a dude. This is exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I wanted from Wanda, because I didn't see how you could evolve that character anymore. I see a lot of people being, not a lot of people, but I've read and saw some reviews that think that this turn for Wanda is like out of left field, and I just don't understand I just don't understand how you can see how this is from left field, given Wanda's history in the MCU period, right? She's in Age of Ultron. She's an antagonist. She's being taken advantage of by this robot. This robot turns on her, Ultron. Ultron eventually turns on her and murders her brother, her only living family member, right? In WandaVision, we saw that her parents are killed, and we know why she hates the Avengers, right? So her parents are gone, her brother's gone. She finds love in Vision, and everything is hunky dory, right? Like, she's gone over that trauma, and now, and in Infinity War, all of the heroes, all of her friends are telling her that you have to murder your husband for the good of humanity.
Right.
Yo, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I can murder my wife for the good of humanity. We all gonna fucking die, right?
Right. Like
So-
this is end of story for us. Like, yeah, like get
Right.
out of here. Like that's crazy.
She does it, right? She has to make this incredibly gut-wrenching, heartbreaking decision to murder her husband, look him in the eyes and murder him, right? Only for the villain to rewind time and murder him and to keep him up, bring him back alive just so he can murder him.
Right.
And then she gets dusted, right? And then she comes back. Obviously, at this point, you murder your husband, he comes back to life, gets murdered in front of you, and then you die. Well, guess what? From then on, I'm going crazy. WandaVision happens, right? WandaVision happens. And look, I don't care what anybody says. I know everybody roots for Wanda. Wanda's the fucking villain in that show.
Of course she's the villain. That's the whole point of that show.
She's the villain in that show. And the point of the show is for her to kind of work through her grief, but she's doing it in a bad way.
Right.
And even at the end of WandaVision, she's like, I'm so sorry. I understand what I did was wrong, and I'm so sorry. Right. But in WandaVision, she gets her, she manifests these children, right? These children who are real to her, right? And Strange says something when he's trying to appeal to her logic. He's like, yo, your children aren't real. They're magic. And she's like, which one was a really fucked up thing for Doctor Strange to say, right? Because,
right, like you wield magic. Like, what are you talking about?
But not even that, right? Like,
but it's also very
matter,
dismissive. Right.
It doesn't matter how these children came to be in her care. They are her children,
right?
Like because they didn't come from her womb doesn't mean that they're not her children, right? Like, obviously. Like, and she and that can Marvel, it's not lost on me that you released this movie about a psycho mom on Mother's Day, right? Like on Mother's Day weekend, right? Like
no, it's not lost. Like, look, their movie release times, they're not happenstance. They never. Shang-Chi was supposed. Remember, Shang-Chi was supposed to, and only because of the pandemic, was supposed to come out on Chinese fucking New Year, right? Like they know what they're doing. Yo. They know what they're doing.
Know what they're doing, right? They know what they're doing. But at the end of WandaVision, we see Wanda. She becomes the Scarlet Witch, right? The Scarlet Witch who Agatha, said, "Oh shit, you're the Scarlet Witch." I'm fucking shaking in my boots now because the Scarlet Witch is fucking terrifying, right?
Right.
And we see her as the Scarlet Witch using the Darkhold in the post-credit scene, and we hear the screams of Billy and Tommy, and then it cuts off, right? Remember that, right? Remember that for later. I don't understand how anyone could be like, well, Wanda's a hero. Like, nah, yo, she's not. This is exactly where Wanda needed to be, and this is exactly everything that I wanted from Wanda in the MCU. And boy, did they give it to me in spades. Like, I thought she was going to be a villain. I didn't know she was going to be murking people, yo.
Yeah, she killed a lot of people, dude.
Like, and I mean, these aren't like, oh, MCU, like, oh, he's dead, but maybe. Nah, yo, these are definitive deaths, yo.
Yeah,
like ain't no coming back from this.
Well, and it's funny because like people are, I personally, and we'll talk about like where we think the universe is going next, specifically with the characters in this movie later on. But like to me, she's irredeemable. She's irredeemable. You can't just be like Doctor Strange, like, this will get you back on the lunchbox. You're not going back on the lunchbox.
You're not coming back from this, yo. You're not.
You can't.
And the one chance was when Professor X was like doing his like psychic thing of trying to free Wanda from her rubble, right? Where all of this started. Right? Where all of her pain started was in the rubble. He was trying to free her, and the Scarlet Witch was just like, nope, you're not gonna free Wanda. Bam! Fuck you. Yeah. Like she is irredeemable at this point.
Yeah, she is a full-on villain. So I loved it, right? Like I loved it. I don't see why people were like, oh, she's gonna come back and fucking join the X-Men. I mean, maybe Wanda is. Maybe not that Wanda. Like, yo, ain't gonna be 616 Wanda. Like, that shit is a wrap for her, yo. Like, no. She is a villain. Personally, I think she's dead. I know people say, oh, you haven't seen the body, whatever. No, yo, I think she's done. Like, I think she's done. That does not mean I don't think that necessarily means Wanda will now show up, but I think 616 Wanda is dead.
I think it was done like that for a reason. The rule in film is if you don't see a body, then that person can come back. Right. You just gotta write. You just gotta figure out a way to write it well to make it happen. But like unlike some of the other deaths that you see bodies and pieces of bodies and blown up bodies, that one she could come back. She couldn't. At this point, it doesn't matter to me at this point because there are bigger fish to fry, which we'll talk about later on.
So, all right, and then let's lastly, just about the big characters. Let's talk about before we move on to the absolute insanity of this movie, in a good way. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch was really good. He was great, right? Like he owns this role. Like he always seems like he's having a really good time. Raimi does a lot of his classic, very like Spider-Man-esque, like zoom in hero shots. Like you kind of get that and everything else. It's very cheesy. I will grant you, but I kind of love it. I kind of do love it. It's sort of just a funny thing that he does, but I kind of love it.
He's got like cheesy POV shots in certain instances where it feels like the character is literally holding the camera in front of their face while they're while they're struggling or whatever. But it makes it look like a Sam Raimi film, and
it very much feels like his.
Yeah, and there's a certain charm to it that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I thought Benedict Cumberbatch. I thought he's very good. This is his role to do with what he wants. Only at this point, he felt very much like, how there's usually a point of view character that kind of plays audience surrogate. I feel like that was him in this movie. I feel like he was just as along for the ride as the rest of us, which he kind of was, right? Like America is just kind of like, let's go this way, let's go this way, let's go this way.
Yeah, they're quite literally just falling from dimension to dimension, right? Like he's just like, never has he felt more never have any of the heroes felt more unmoored from like a linear story than to quite literally be falling and tumbling through these different dimensions, and you just don't know where they're going to show up, right? Yeah. So it does lend to this like very weird feeling, like probably in the entire second act of the movie, you're like, where are they headed? And then it's not until they kind of fall into what I guess is the 838 universe that you're like, okay, got it. This is where they are. This is where this next, the latter part of the second act into the third act is all going to kind of take place. So yeah, I thought it was super interesting. And I thought he was very good. All right. So let's get into like big story moments. How on a scale of nip tuck doom to crash test dummy doom, how excited were you to watch Reed Richards die in the MCU on screen? For God's sake,
this certainly wasn't crash test dummy doom for me. This was fun. I look. I don't know if John Krasinski is going to be Mr. Fantastic. I do appreciate that Marvel has listened to fans. Is like, oh, you want him to be Mr. Fantastic? Okay, we'll make him Mr. Fantastic, and here he is, and now pow, like he fucking died. I loved it. The only reason I didn't absolutely love it is because John Krasinski is a nice man, and he played Reed Richards as a very nice, like, doting father. Like he didn't play him like a dick. He didn't play him like a prick. Yeah. And I need my Mr. Fantastic to be a prick. That is going to be the one thing that I will be upset about, is the characterization of Reed Richards in the MCU. If he's not just he's really smart, and yeah, you kind of need him, but God damn it, I don't like that prick. I need him to be that. I don't know if John Krasinski's going to be in it in the future. I would be more than fine with him doing it. But yeah, it was fun. That whole scene, again, that scene was just for fan service, right? It was literally fan service in the scene. And watching him get unraveled was funny, and then the pop at the end when she popped his head. I mean, I loved it.
I'm sure you did.
It's hilarious to me.
I mean, look, that entire Illuminati reveal was great, right? It's like you got Mordo, and it was like, all right, we already knew that. And then here comes Captain Carter. It was like, all right, like that got fucking spoiled for me. Thanks, Instagram. Yo, you guys got to stop posting like just stop posting images, like it was like 3 days out from the movie. Just relax. I know it's in the trailer, but like people are trying to avoid that. Don't be a dick. So you got Captain Carter, which was dope, which was cool to see. I always kind of thought she was likely to be there. And she had a jetpack, which was awesome. Like that was kind of fun, right?
I would love to. I can't tell you how much I would love to see a Haley Atwell Captain Carter film. Just like part of me hopes that this is just like testing the waters to see who tracks, and it's maybe we do this right in another universe, right? Because I don't think this Captain Carter is the same as the What If Captain Carter.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think any of these people belong to any previous incarnation of whatever property they are from. Right. They're just using the same actors, which is dope.
Then we got Black Bolt, which I was not expecting. I was not expecting Anson Mount to reprise the character of Black Bolt in costume, because in that show he never, at least not the footage I ever saw, that fucking garbage show, he never donned like an actual helmet and things, or a mask, which I thought was cool. Like, all right, so we're really doing this. Like, oh shit, there he is. And then you get Captain Marvel, played by Monica Rambeau's mom, Marie Rambeau, which was pretty cool. She was just kind of playing it as like too fucking cool for school, which I enjoyed. She was just like, nah, I'll fuck you up, because that's what I do. I was like, all right, bet. And then of course you got Reed Richards, which the second he showed up, man, our fucking theater was like, they got fucking hyped. Like people were like, oh shit. Yeah. Oh my god!
The second he showed up, I got hyped. I was like, "Oh, it's just me? Okay."
Oh, I'm the only one. All right. Like, it's so funny. Talking to one of our listeners, he was saying that he was in the theater, and he was in a row of kids. And when Reed showed up, he was like, "Oh shit!" And then he looked over, he's like, "Oh, sorry about that." And he goes, "You know what? Fuck those kids." He was like, "I waited longer than they've been alive for this moment." I was like, "This is awesome." I was like, "Yeah, it's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. We've been waiting since literally fucking Iron Man put on that suit to see these guys all in the same universe, which is amazing." And so people went really nuts for that. And then of course Professor X shows up in the fucking 90s big floating chair, which I thought was pretty cool. It was a little like,
it was cool. It's ridiculous.
It looks ridiculous. Like, okay, I'm not the only one. I was like, I don't think this looks that great. Like it's like it looks like the 90s cartoon, but also quite silly. Like,
right. It looks like the 90s cartoon, but also it looks like it came from a cartoon from the 90s.
Right. Like, that's not a good thing. Like, it's not a good thing. Like, that's why the movies were like, nah, just give him a really nice wheelchair. Like, it's enough. Like, you don't have to fancy it up with this giant fucking floating chair. It's nuts. And like they got murdered. Like, Black Bolt getting killed was crazy. I was like, yo, I thought it was like, oh, she just disappeared his mouth and then he wouldn't be able to speak. And then he was like, no, I'm just going to yell. And it was like, you going to die.
Yeah, he was taken aback. It was like, wait, what? Oh, shit. Like,
and then she made quick work of the rest of them, which was awesome.
It was such a cool, like, nonsense scene, right? Like that had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. But like if I was being like, oh, this movie's too long, like you could take that whole scene out. But I wouldn't want you to take that whole scene out because
No, no,
it's just a blast, man.
right.
Also, it really shows like it really makes you terrified of Wanda, right? Like
Yes.
it's a show of strength that I don't think any other MCU villain to date, maybe Thanos, but it's a show of strength that not a few MCU villains get to they don't get to cut loose, man. Like they don't get to really go hard and and dispatch these people. What else? So there are issues that I have with the movie.
Okay.
Two major ones. One,
after this, by the way, I want to talk about like what do we think is coming next. But go ahead.
Okay. Two major issues I have with the movie. One, the Multiverse of Madness. The madness was there. The multiverse was not, right? Like I was very much looking forward. I was very much looking forward to seeing a lot of different variations of and variants and like to see what they can do. And they essentially just were in 616, then they jumped through all of the other multiverses, they landed in 818, and then they just kind of stayed there. And you know, it was cool to see the transitions through the different multiverses. That's something that Everything Everywhere All at Once did way better. Was showing variants of Michelle Yeoh and all the other characters and what they can do.
Right.
And they got silly with it. Like they had a blast with it. And I was really looking forward to something like that from this. And it didn't provide it. The other is a story beat. The way they defeat Wanda is to give her exactly what she wants. And that to me is kind of lame just because if you thought about it, you could have done this earlier, right? Like you could have figured out a way to, like Wanda is, they go through all this and all of it is essentially for nothing. Not for nothing, but I don't know. It feels like, hey, we went through all of this to make sure that the hero doesn't get the MacGuffin, and then the one way we can defeat the hero or the villain is to give the villain the MacGuffin, and then kind of hope that it works out. I don't like that.
I mean, I could make an argument. I could make an argument that that's what happens in Infinity War.
I don't like that either.
Like they spent the entire time saying you can't have the time stone, you can't have the time stone, don't touch me, you can't have the time stone, and they were like, here's the time stone. It's like,
I mean, and that's the maddening thing, right? They make that reference in this movie,
right? Like
right? People are pissed at Doctor Strange. Oh, so the only way you could have did
the one dude was like, come on,
right,
come on,
like,
bro,
like, come on, man. Like, don't, like, just because you point it out doesn't mean that you can continue to do it, right? It's just like, it's like saying, oh, my bad, but then you keep fouling me, yo. Like, nah,
right.
yo. Like,
that means you're actually you're not sorry about what you're doing.
Exactly. So, that is that's a major criticism that I have with the movie, but I don't have a solution for it. But the journey was, sometimes it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yep, I think
the journey was a blast, man. The journey was really, really fun. Was there anything else? Those were my two major issues.
Yeah, I like gripes wise with the movie. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not a perfect movie. I don't know that I can jump on any sort of major points that didn't work. I mean, just eventually giving her up was is kind of a lame point. I agree with you. But all in all, I don't think I had any like major like, oh my God, this is such a huge issue for me. So yeah, I thought it was fine. I am very interested to see what happens next, right? Like they they did something that I thought was good, which is they opened up a lot of questions, but not so much that it took away from the story that you were in, right? Because that's like a very Iron Man 2 thing of like, this is coming next, this is coming next, this is coming next, this is coming next, this is coming next. Hey, so what about this story? No, don't worry about this story. Like just worry about the future. Like they don't do that. They've learned over the years to not do that, which is good. But it certainly opens up a lot of questions that I find to be interesting, right? Like in the end credit scene, we get Clea, played by Charlize Theron, which is great, by the way. She is always an actress I thought should be in the MCU. Like,
yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, she definitely deserves to be there. She's a fucking massive nerd.
If she's going to be in fucking the Fast franchise, like,
she better.
I mean, come on, yo.
Right.
She is, yo. I mean, look, ain't nobody better than getting a big payday, right? Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, come on, yo, come on.
Like, you know where you're supposed to be. Come on, girl. Come on, stop playing. I still think, like, if this movie had been made in the early days of the MCU, she would have been a perfect Captain Marvel. Like, she would have probably been their top choice. But, you know, you can't make a movie starring a woman, according to Ike Perlmutter, apparently. That'll never do well, $1 billion later. So, it turns out people like to see themselves in movies. Weird. So, like, seeing Clea show up and saying, like, hey, there's an incursion, I need your help. I am very interested as to what that means, right? Like, because, like, incursions in the Marvel comic books, like the biggest one that is always talked about, obviously, and it maybe is the only one that is really matters, is the incursion from between the Ultimate Universe and the 616 universe, right? That's how you got Miles over and you know, and that whole thing, right? And like bringing him over and just toasting the Ultimate Universe forever. But how does the incursion work, right? Like, it clearly is a very obvious way that you could get the X-Men there, right? Like, okay, this other universe is crashing into our universe. One gets destroyed, but these characters get to make it over, and then they just blend into our universe. Cool. But, like, do we in the 616 universe, like, as the audience, do we know that the incursion happened? Or just like one day these characters are just there and it's a normal part of the world. And like, do people get copied over other people, right? Or like, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like,
so I think so the Marvel universe is the MCU universe is based on different timelines, and when timelines intersect, that's an incursion. Or like a mild incursion. And I'm talking out of my ass, right? But when timelines
it's all made up. It's all
right. It's all made up. I'm going with my poor memory of Loki and my poor memory of what I saw in this movie, right? When something from another timeline enters, when something from 616 enters 838, specifically Doctor Strange, and does enough damage, then the 838 timeline kind of tilts toward the 616 timeline. This is my guess, right? Because an anomaly is there and time is trying to correct itself, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking, right? And if they keep doing all this dimension hopping, jumping into a world where mutants exist, will bring it closer to our timeline. And jumping to a world where, I don't know, the Sony Spider-Verse exists, brings it closer to our timeline, right?
No, we don't need to
do that. I think they're going, I think this phase, and I'm not the first person to come up with this idea, but I think this phase is going to be all about what happens when you're doing all this dimension hopping and everything is smashing together to be in one master timeline and secret wars, right?
Right. I think that's where they're building, obviously.
And that is probably what is going to happen. So after this phase, you will get mutants will be after this phase. If secret wars is the big thing,
right?
And at the end of this run, the timelines have come together. And now there's one master timeline. That is the 616 timeline, where we're taking bits and pieces from the other universes and putting them into our own. that is what's going to happen. And look, if you can explain dusting away half the world or blipping away half the world and then blipping them back, if you don't have a problem with that notion, then and all the nonsense that comes with that, like the logistical nonsense that comes with that.
Yeah, you just have to. You got to hand wave a lot of that away.
You got it right. Then the idea of multiple timelines coming together, and then some people surviving the shift in dimensions, and some people not making it. That's what I think is going to happen.
And that's the part that I need to like wrap my brain around. Is just like. You just gotta have to hand wave shit away. Like, I think that's how you get a Wanda back. I don't think you get the original 616 Wanda. I think she is dead as a fucking doorknob. And even if she wasn't, she's irredeemable. Like you can't just have that character running around hanging out with the X-Men.
Let her be a big bad villain, right?
And that's possible.
Find a real way to defeat her. Find a real way, and not this, sort of a cop out way of doing it. Right.
Like, what you going?
Although I did like at the end of WandaVision when you hear Billy and Tommy screaming for their mother, like "Mom, help!" That's the scene in this movie where 616 Wanda comes into 838 Wanda's world. And at the end of the movie, because she's like, my babies. And the kids are like, what the fuck? Like, who the fuck are you?
Get away from us.
My mom's over there. Right? Like, that's them screaming. And I just thought that was a nice little touch.
You're saying that it's the scream she hears at the end of WandaVision.
At the end of WandaVision. Yeah, that's what I think happened, man. I haven't gone back to watch WandaVision, but like that's a nice little like. And that's when she realizes that she's the monster, right? Like, shit! Like I've been looking for my kids to protect them from this fucking monster, and I'm the fucking monster,
right?
Which leads credence to your theory that she's good and gone. Which I think that Wanda needs to die. I think that Wanda needs to stay dead. I think that Wanda needs to stay dead. But part of me also thinks that we kind of leave 838 Wanda alone. And because that woman has been through enough, guys. Like,
no, here's the thing. Here's the thing. That Wanda that we saw in 838 or whatever the hell the universe is, we don't know what her whole story is. We actually don't. Yeah. We think we know because we're referencing the 616 Wanda. That Wanda's brother might very well be alive. Right?
Yeah.
You don't know, right? You have no idea. That Wanda, those kids might actually be real.
Yeah.
You don't know, right? Like, because Wanda says, how do I know that, strangers like, oh, they're not real. They're made with magic. One, she gives a line of like, all children are magic. Or that's how women create children, which I thought was a really like a clever line. I was like, I got you. Happy Mother's Day. Right? Like, I got it. But you don't know that those kids are not real. And that she was somehow able to have children with Vision. You don't know that Vision is dead in that universe. You don't know, right? Like, you have no idea. Vision might have just been out of town or at lunch. You have no idea because we see them for a very limited amount of time. Like, it's not like we see them over the course of weeks and months or whatever. No, you see them in like 2 scenes. So it is altogether possible that life is the life after Infinity, let's say in their universe, Infinity War happens and she didn't have to kill Thanos, right? Because in that universe, the Illuminati killed Thanos, right? They killed him because you got to remember, they killed Thanos on Titan. That's where they were. They weren't on Earth. So maybe when he showed up to Titan, they were like, it's rock and roll. This shit is done, right? So there may never have been a war in Wakanda and all that other stuff in their universe, which could lead to her never having that level of trauma, right? Because all of that trauma comes from, like you said, killing Vision and then seeing him be murdered again right in front of her in Wakanda. Well, if Thanos never made it off Titan, then he only got 4 of the Infinity Stones, and so he survived, right? And they killed him before that. So it could lend to a situation that they bring the incursion happens, and they bring those characters in. Let's say I have no fucking idea, and no one knows. And you get Wanda, you get Quicksilver back, you get her kids, and they all are real, and that trauma doesn't exist for them. It's possible. Yeah. And that's your Wanda gets on a lunchbox, right? And she's like, oh shit. But she was an Avenger, right? Like, so her memories and all that other stuff fit in line, except for her brother dying and all of the trauma past that. All of that. Like, she remembers, like, oh, this is the Avengers. Okay, cool. I'm on this team. She remembers the Hawkeye speech in Age of Ultron. And that's where her shit ends. And it picks up where she's back on Earth. And the only people who would know any different are wizards. And they'd be like, oh, right, that's not the same Wanda. I mean, that other Wanda was fucking crazy, but that's not this Wanda.
Yeah.
So it's possible to redeem her. But like you said, you got to hand wave a lot of shit away. Like, not even a lot, but you got to just be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you got to go with it, right? You got to go with it. You can't apply too much logic to this wizard movie, right?
Or the MCU at all. Like, you just got to go, okay.
As long as it makes somewhat sense, you know what I mean? Like that's my big issue with like giving Wanda what she wants and then hoping shit works out. Like it's kind of that's shaky, man. That's shaky.
You're on dangerous ground.
But in terms of like bringing in mutants and maybe redoing Inhumans and all this other stuff, yeah, I'm willing to roll with it. So
yeah, and look, there's a lot. You know, Feige came out today saying that, you know, let me see if I can find it. It was an interesting little statement. He basically was like, look, the sort of the genesis of Miss Marvel's powers aren't like, they didn't line up with where when she was written in the comics. That part of the universe was telling a very specific story, and that did not line up to what the story we're telling in the MCU, right? Referencing basically like her stuff is all based in Inhumans, and Inhumans were super big then because they were basically shitting on mutants because of Fox owning them. And they were like, look, it doesn't align with what the MCU story we're telling, but there is a lot more to that character's powers than we just see right now. My guess is there's a lot of shit they can't talk about publicly yet because this movie is still early in theaters as to like where things are going. Look, don't be shocked if they do redo the Inhumans. Like, don't be shocked. Like, now that they've said, hey, the Inhumans exist in that universe, you could just say that it's that universe, right? You don't have to say that Inhuman show was in the 616. That Anson Mount Black Bolt who got fucking killed himself, that is the one you saw in that show. Done and dusted. That shit is over. This is our Black Bolt right now. So you could easily have a situation, because he says something like, that's her and all her, stretchy, amazement or some shit like that. It could easily be that you give her these infinity bands or what have you in like the Quasar bands in the show. And she thinks that's derives her power. And then she loses them at some point. And it turns out, like in the Marvels, turns out she has that power anyway. And it's like, oh, where did I get it? And then that starts a trail of where does that character go, right? It's possible. You've now made it that the Inhumans exist. So is it impossible to think that the Inhumans, we maybe have not seen them in the 616, but is it impossible to think that they don't exist in the 616, right? Like, where Strange goes after coming back to our universe is really fucking interesting, right? He has all of this new information. Why wouldn't he seek out the X-Men? Like, why not? Why would he not seek out mutants at that point?
I think he's going to create a 616 Illuminati. I think
that's possible.
Yeah, I think he's going to be like, okay, well, this was a good idea. They just had like they had the wrong dude in there, like Karl Mordo, like fuck that guy. Which, by the way, I really am going to need some sort of I'm going to need them to tie up that plot thread with Karl Mordo from the end of the first Doctor Strange.
I think he's the villain of the third Strange movie.
Like, I think it's him and Dormammu, right? Because Clea comes from the dark dimension,
right? That makes sense.
Dormammu I think it's going to be those two, right? Like, to bring it back full circle. Those are Doctor Strange's classic, two classic villains.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, man,
creating the Illuminati.
Oh yeah, I think that he's gonna come to the realization that maybe having the Illuminati is not a bad idea. They just didn't do it right in 838. But I'm fucking Doctor Strange, baby. I'm smart as shit. Right. I can make it better, right? Which would fit in line with his character. So, I think that would be, I think he's gonna create his own Illuminati. And yeah, I do think this all ends with Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Which, that feels like a big enough event to end a phase on, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or not, but not even end a phase. That's a saga, right? That's a saga.
Yeah,
that might
saga.
not be, that might not even be the end of this phase. I think that's the end of the saga. The Infinity Saga, and then you got your Secret War saga or whatever you want to call it there, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the next 20 movies,
maybe well into our 50s at that point.
maybe not that long, but yeah, it'll be the Secret War saga. That's what that's starting with, Shang-Chi or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I would love. I would love for that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. Like, you got to get full on crazy, man. And it's just, you're seeing multiple copies of everyone, multiple copies of all of these big characters that you've seen since the beginning of the MCU or early parts of the MCU. Multiple Doctor Stranges, multiple Thors. There's 2, possibly 3, like Thor-like characters in the upcoming movie. Like, you need that. Like, that's what Secret Wars is. It's going to be a lot of like you versus me type of shit. And like, whatever that looks like. And I think it's more of Secret Wars, the modern Secret Wars with Doom and Reed at the center of it. I don't know if they will be at the center of it, but that particular story, I think it's more that.
Don't get me going. Don't get me going. Don't give me God Emperor Doom with an army of Thors and Doctor Strange as his like right hand, as his fucking vizier and shit. Oh my god. Okay.
Come on, man. If the first time you see Doom, he's in all white, Jesus Christ, that would be insane.
Look. Let me tell you something. If the first time I see Doom and he's God Emperor Doom, after that movie's over, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have sex with my wife, because that is the only thing that's going to calm me down.
Why are you so riled up? I just got out of the movie. I'll talk about it later.
I saw a grown man in a full suit of armor and beautiful white robes.
That take your pants off.
And no.
So that's all I can tell you. Like, get away from me. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. All right. So I think that's a pretty exhaustive conversation about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Look, we're going to talk about more of it as time goes on, but I do want to let people like be able to see the movie and like have real fun with it and everything else. And look, I think over the next couple of weeks, by the way, this is something we didn't talk about, is just real quick. You and I had talked about like Fantastic Four doesn't have a director. John Krasinski is a director. John Krasinski has done a family movie with his wife. Is he the director of Fantastic Four and they're just keeping that shit under wraps because they don't want to give that away for people who haven't seen the movie yet? It would make sense.
Yeah, it would make sense. I'm still not 100% that John Krasinski is going to be Mr. Fantastic, even though he was in this.
Right.
Until I see an actual cast list.
Right.
And I know what you're thinking, right? Well, he was in it, and there are multiple variants using the same actor, but like Loki had variants that were a woman, a black guy, an old man, and a child, and an alligator. So
right, like
variants don't have to be the same actor. So
no,
but I think
Also, Professor X is, Patrick Stewart's not going to be Professor X in the MCU. Dude.
Yeah, he's not. He's in his 80s, guys.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
like I think he came out and said recently that, oh yeah, he would love to do it again. But that's because Sir Patrick Stewart is a very nice individual. He's a very, very nice man. But he's in his 80s, man. And these mutant movies aren't coming for a couple of years. So
right, so you're going to have him and Ian McKellen? Like, no, because you can't give us Patrick Stewart and not give us Ian McKellen as Magneto. It just don't work. Like that is a package deal. And no, I love both of them. I think they're awesome, but they're too old at this point. They're just too old.
I think at best, if these movies come out, while these two men are still on this mortal coil, if these X-Men movies come out, I think you do a torch passing to from them to whatever new actors you have through some interdimensional shenanigans or what have you.
I'd be okay with that.
I would like to see that. But again, I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Hey, look, they got crowds popping, unlike your shitty crowd, but they got the crowd pop for everything that I wanted in this. So anything is possible. So we shall see. We shall see. All right, next up is Thor: Love and Thunder. Can't wait to see what they do with that. Holy shit,
wait.
Man.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
It's a month out. All right. We will see you guys next time.
See ya.